POS system thing, and that's due tomorrow.
By the way, in case you didn't want.
That's due tomorrow.
By the way,
are we on now?
We are now.
Okay, cool.
I realized as soon as I did it, I was like, oh, he might not want to talk about that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that might not be a good thing to put on the stream.
What's up, dude?
What up? Yeah. Sorry, both of us are a little bit lower energy today than normal. It's been a long day for both of us, independently, actually. But, yeah. Welcome to Terramundi.
What up?
Where we're starting our stream for the very first time. Welcome to episode 1. Corey, you want to take the wheel on this?
Okay, and to preface this is unrelated, but you'll all hear it, is my niece is upstairs, and she announced to me when I got home that she's very angry. So,
Why's she angry?
I don't know.
Who has wronged Winnie?
She woke up sweaty, and
Never mind. You don't have to explain. I get it.
Yeah, like I get it. I tried to say hi to her, and she goes, "I'm angry."
Nah, fuck it. You didn't even need more explanation. I'm always angry if I wake up sweaty. That's perfectly reasonable.
She's communicating it too.
Yeah, good for her. Vent that in a healthy way.
You know, not enough people announce that they're angry.
Right?
I wish I could come into work and just, hey, how are you? I'm angry.
I'm upset because I woke up sweaty.
Somebody get me milk. So.
Yeah. Go on.
Let me announce my shame to the world. I have not been a particularly good steward of saving our videos, and I thought that we had lost a couple up to this point, but I was under the impression, just through reading too fast and not closely, an issue... Okay, look... I'm a quick reader. Is the thing.
Mm-hmm.
I shouldn't be shamed for this. But Twitch does save your videos for 60 days if you're a part of their affiliate program. Not if you're me. And if you're me, Twitch saves your videos for 14 days. Found that out. That really kicks you the old nuts.
Yeah. So, Corey, how many videos did we lose, buddy?
It would be easier for me to tell you how many videos we have.
How many videos do we have, Corey?
You don't want to know.
Let me take a guess, okay? Can I take a guess and you can tell me, and that'll be how we start out today's session?
Sure.
Do we have 5 videos?
We have 5 videos.
We have 5. Exactly 5. Tight. So for those of you who were following the stream from the proto, we'll call it the proto beginning, the before 4 times. We've been streaming almost every week for how long has it been, Corey?
I don't know. A long time.
Yeah, like 5 months, 4 months.
Yeah, something like that.
It might even be longer, but the whole point of us doing this on the stream was to make sure that we have a video documentation of reasons for why we did shit.
Yeah, and the whole idea was, and like I still, and hold on, like I still adhere to this. let's not go dogging me too hard.
Let's do that. Let's do exactly that thing.
Okay.
No, it's okay. It does happen, and it's okay. We have an audience. We have an audience of 2 people, anyways. It doesn't matter.
I don't understand YouTube, and I tried to get it to. You'd think that they'd make it easy, where you could just automatically upload, and that's how I tried to set it up.
Well, and so that was going to be my question: is does it not automatically do it? You have to like manually transfer it over.
I tried to
Huh.
get it to automatically upload, and maybe fucking hidden onto YouTube. There's like a cache of our videos. That being said, my audio. How's my audio sound right now? Better.
It sounds so much better. I have you at normal volume right now.
Yeah.
Like it's. Oh my god, it's amazing.
I've done some stuff. So for some reason,
Okay,
I don't want to
cool.
get into the nitty gritty, but my computer's been trying to opt to different audio inputs, and every time I start something, it's like, "This is what you want, right?" And I no is the answer.
Yeah, you got to nip that in the bud.
So
So honestly, it's probably for the best anyways. The audio quality on those early videos is fucking rough, man. It's bad.
yeah, I'm gonna get a soundboard. That's
Yeah.
just
Get a soundboard, get a mixer, get an XLR mic with a nice little pop filter.
no. I'm gonna get
We'll be like real podcasters.
I'm gonna get Arnold Schwarzenegger soundboard, like on Newgrounds back in the day.
Oh man. Oh shit. You like took me way back with that.
I just saw it in your eyes.
That's a fucking deep cut.
So we've both been up to some things this week.
Yeah, we have.
Taylor, I've quickly gone over your mechanics. I love them. I
Cool.
take umbrance with a couple things that we'll have to talk about.
It's literally just meant to be a discussion starter. It's not a finalized document.
Well, I love fucking most of it. So,
Yeah.
the cool thing is, I can't wait to do my dirty work on the visual overlay.
Yeah, I knew you were gonna have like a field day with a lot of this stuff. So how do you want to go over this? Do you just want to go through what I have here piece by piece and we can talk about it individually? Do you want to sort of give an overview? How do you want to approach this?
Well, yeah, let's do a quick overview of the whole idea of the contract system and the caravan system in general before we do the piece by piece breakdown. Just because anyone new, this, which is everyone, because this is episode 1.
Episode 1, maybe. We'll tell you what, I'm gonna probably be doing most of the like individual pieces of the contract. So if you want to do like the intro, then that might be the way to sort of deviate that responsibility out.
Sure. Vault Peddlers is a angry.
Oh, she's so mad. Forgive her, guys. She woke up sweaty.
I was about to say I've been drawing, and she's been tried to show her some of my drawings, and she was like, I was like, all right, whatever, screw you. Get into a fight with a 3-year-old.
Have been great, by the way. I don't know if Corey's posted any of them on.
I haven't. We'll take a peek.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you can even see our setup on right now, but things look much better.
I did. I you've got us like separated by like the little logo. It looks very professional.
Except I can't get rid of the fucking Google UI on the PDF viewer. It doesn't go away.
Is it really not?
No, I looked it up. Since they changed their new PDF viewer, you can't make it go away.
Hang on. Are you on just a view mode? Because you should have editing abilities.
How do I get into editing abilities? More actions.
Yeah, open it. Go to the center and click open with Google Docs.
It is open with Google. Oh, I see.
It's not though.
Oh, I see. I was just in the PDF view. All right.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
All right, Google.
You're getting off this time, but
this time, Google Dave. It's the guy I just made.
Google Dave is terrifying, by the way.
It is I, Google Dave. All right, cool. Okay, let's get into this nasty work of trying to make this a bit more legible to everyone. Okay, so
okay, yeah.
The whole game in itself, Vault Peddlers, is a post-apocalypse. It is a science fantasy communal game. When I say communal, it is the mechanics of the game are supposed to drive forward the idea of community. And so you take the form of bad people working within a community together to basically steal archaeological finds and sell them because it's a dump out there and we've got to get by.
This isn't a world that's as concerned with preservation and conservation. Just to be clear.
I mean, yeah, it is. It is a world that is, again, trying to get by. Like it is past the point of needing to rebuild from the start, but people are scraping by.
I think that we said that this is like only 100 years after whatever the cataclysm actually was that like destroyed the world. So
the timeline's murky. We'll
it's murky,
there.
But yeah.
There's cities and stuff, but there's not a lot of them. But so the idea is that you'll have your character sheets, and then you will have a joint character sheet, being the caravan system, that you will, in the same way that you level up your character, improve your character, everyone will be improving their caravan first. So you get to sort of paint what kind of team you run with. Are you a martial team who moves through like slick adventures? Are you like a war-bound group of mercenaries? Are you Catherine Zeta-Jones and Sean Connery?
Oh my God!
Yeah.
Well, now.
So the idea is that like your team is not going to be the same as everyone else's team, which is the whole idea. It is a feat-based game with a lot of customization that is supposed to interact with other customizations. So, based on that, we are really prioritizing the idea of currency and economy. There's a shared dice system when you're on runs, and everything is contracted. So we have a contract system which is going to sort of delineate play. I think it is both represented in fiction and out of fiction. Out of fiction, this is just sort of going to tell you, hey, the sort of adventure on. And if you're playing like a one-shot, this is your... if you were playing Pathfinder, this is your adventure path, or the actual adventure within that. It is
or if you're doing PBTA, it's like your adventure front. Like it's and I think that we're going to be dealing with this both in and out of character, because it's very much within character a thing. So contracts last week, I gave Taylor the homework of doing the contracts because I did not want to. Yes, once again, the long-suffering Taylor has to do the dirty work that nobody else wants to do. Actually, it turned out to be really fun. So we'll just kind of go into this just sort of generally. So the first thing I have on here, just basically the overview of what a contract actually is. So this thing again, oh my goodness. What happened to my document? Okay, there we go. So what is a contract, right? As Corey was explaining, this is kind of the central, this is sort of the central adventure front that you are going to be interacting with. One of the things that you can compare it to, if you're familiar with games like D&D, it's like if there was a job board or something like that. This is going to be a job board, but it's a little bit more formalized, both in the mechanics and in the fiction. So, for example, in this, you're going to know who's contracting out the job, or at the very least, you're going to know like who's being made to front the job. You're going to have an idea of what the job requested is. You're going to have an idea of what all is involved, what the goals are, what the payment is, what the consequences are for not following those things. So I have all of that listed in point 2. What does the contract entail? But on my first point, what is a contract? One of the things that I wanted to do, and this was something that I wanted to kind of double check with Corey before sort of moving on. I wasn't really sure how to go about telling people how to enact this process.
Sure. I
So
actually love how you went about this.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So basically, I just said that like how your table goes about the contract process is it's going to be different for every table. Like some people are really into role playing. Some people love playing characters. They love having like those little interactions with people that, make the world what it is. So the cool thing about the contract system is if you're one of those tables, then like you can play this out in character, right? You can have the archivist play like an NPC who is interested in hiring out like your Vault Peddler team to do a certain job. And if your table isn't into that, the cool thing about this process is it can literally just be the GM comes to the or the archivist comes to the table, puts down this contract on the table, gives it to the players and says, here's the job that we're working or that like is being put in front of you. Like, how do you want to interact with it?
Can I say what I really love about like this idea, and I think you really solidified it home for me, is I was listening to a Matt Colville video, and he was talking about railroading and the idea of like linear adventures, and how like railroading and linear adventures are not the same thing. They get thrown into the same category, and sometimes it is nice to have a linear adventure. And what I like about this is that it is like a session 0 at the beginning of an adventure, being like, hey, this is the hooks that I'm throwing at you right now. Like,
kind of, yeah. It gets around the whole thing of like, are you sure you don't want to talk to the mysterious stranger in the tavern?
Sure,
because he's really mysterious. You should do that.
And I think that this is something that we are striving to do. Like, and I think that like games like Into the Endless Sea does. Is that the Wild Sea? The Wild Sea does really well, where it's like you have a form, and I think Blades in the Dark does a very similar thing, where like you are a group, and this is what you do. And I just really dig that.
And the other thing I really liked about it too was, I mean, we've talked in multiple previous sessions, except we haven't because this is session 1. But we've talked about like wanting to formalize table talk into this game. A lot of games discourage it, but this is actually one that we kind of wanted to bring that aspect into it. And in so doing, bring players close, much in the same way that characters are normally brought really close. Yeah. So I felt like this was a good way to approach it through the contract system as well, right? If your characters don't want to discuss it, then you as players can discuss it.
Sure.
And sort of approach it that way.
Yeah, it's a very good way to onboard people who are more uncomfortable with the concept of role playing, at least initially.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So moving on then. So we have these contracts. We know what they do. We know kind of how the in fiction or out of fiction process of like approaching them is going to go. Now the question is, what does the contract actually entail? So contrary to some other adventure hooks, what I mentioned before, you're going to know who's actually contracting with you. We're going to see a sample contract that I sort of made this afternoon. Excuse me, that I made this afternoon to give you kind of an idea of how all of this is going to look. But you're going to know who's buying from you. You're going to know the investor information. You're also going to have a basic idea of what their reputation is. If like previous Vault Peddler teams have thought of them as being like trustworthy, if they've given reliable information, if they've delivered payment on time, or if they've tried to like welch out on payments, you're going to have a basic idea of the quality of client that you're going to be working for, as per like other teams. You're going to have an idea of where this is. Obviously, you're going to have a summary of the job requested. You're going to have what I call CATs, which are known area threats, KATS.
I love that, by the way.
And these are basically things that like you're going into a volcano. The threat is the volcano. It doesn't necessarily mean that that's the only thing in the area, but this is like what the investor knows you'll be going up against when you go into that area. They'll have obviously the payment, which is something that you're going to have to weigh against like how difficult the job is, and all of these other factors. We'll have a listing of like optional goals. So like there will be a primary goal, but there will be secondary things. Like if you get this main artifact, that's the main thing you want to do. But like also, if you want to like, take some of these pieces of the surveillance array, that's in this facility as well, then like we'll pay you extra for that if you want to do that. And then finally, and this is maybe one of the most important things, once accepted, a contract, just by definition, is binding. So a good contract is going to have consequences for breaking that contract once initially accepted. So if you sign on the dotted line, you're on the hook for getting that artifact or not, which means that your team has to really consider how difficult the job is and whether or not they're actually equipped to do it before taking it on. I feel like having all of these different things is really going to make the contract process into a way more three-dimensional thing where you're having to, either as the character or as the player, kind of grapple with this world, the people in it, what their reputation is, what they're offering, what your resources are, and kind of put all of that together and say, okay, this job is worth doing. So that was sort of the basic idea. I don't know if you have any thoughts at this point or not.
One thing I do want to make sure we don't pigeon, and I know that this is going to be a funny thing to say based on our game being titled Vault Peddlers. But one thing I do want to make sure, and I think you do a good job of walking this line here, is, and I think how we present this in book, in fiction, is going to be very important to how it is perceived. But I do want to avoid only framing the contractual obligations as dungeon diving. Like, I think that a contract could also be like, hey, destabilize the local authority in this town. Like,
yeah, I think that's absolutely fair. And like the sample contract that I have down at the very bottom actually is not a dungeon dive at all, or at least not technically. Like it could very well turn into that depending on who's running it, but we'll get to that more in a minute. I completely agree.
I would also love to see, and maybe this is more of a meta narrative that the GM is going to have to weave, but I love the idea of like, and maybe this is, but I love the idea of being able to hide story beats through successive contracts and like telling a story woven in the details there about things going on behind the like. I feel like that is a great way to move us from a game that, like, I think on its face can feel very very disconnected and episodic into campaign-oriented gaming. I mean, maybe there's a way we can prioritize that as we like divvy out the actual mechanics of the caravan system or something. But I do love the way you've worded everything here. So.
No, there's going to be certain things where I'll reference something that we haven't made yet. And it'll get to that point where like we're gonna have to sit down and make some stuff for that. But no, completely agree on both of those points. So let's go to the first thing here, because I kind of have all of these pieces detailed. The next thing down is investor information. As I mentioned before, you're gonna know who you're buying from. So this person might be a private collector, which in the world of EBA at the time of Vault Peddlers is remarkably large. There aren't a lot of big towns or organizations there. So, you've got a few, but a lot of them are private individuals, or they're working for an organization or a company. And this is one of the things that I was really proud of, is that we're going to give you as characters, it's a 1 to 10 rating based on reviews of previous Vault Peddler teams. Now, Corey, the only thing I'm worried about with that is we're going to have to work out in fiction how you as a Vault Peddler team are getting that information. Because obviously,
fucking fantasy yelp.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense to us with the internet, but obviously I don't really think that's a resource. So I want to have something like that, but I don't know how to justify it.
I mean, I don't know how to justify a gig economy either, Taylor. But that's a moral thing with me. So no,
I mean, fair.
It is. I mean, like, this is, I think, where we're going to get into, like, we've been talking a lot about combat and character-based things for Vault Peddlers for a little while, because we've been divvying out a lot of the personal character sheet, which I think tends to move towards combat.
Yeah.
Because, fucking, let's face it, this is a combat game, too. Like, it operates on a hex grid, which I think lends itself to combat. Whether or not that combat is going to be incredibly difficult is another question all the same. But I think this is where we can get into the idea of featured or reliquary actions as being more than just oriented towards that one sphere, one pillar of the game. Because you can conceivably take features that could influence this score, or at least help you lie about it.
Yeah.
And like, arguably, things in the caravan, too. Like, depending on who you have or what you have in your caravan to build up trust. So, yeah, I mean, I love the idea of putting a fucking gig economy.
Yeah. I mean, it may even be something that, like, you know, we justify it just as, like, the contract doesn't come with the rating, but, like, your dealer, a part of, like, their role is, like, getting all that information together. So basically, by the time the table looks at it, the dealer has already done that research. I mean, there's other ways to deal with it.
Yeah.
But so basically, you know, if they have like a 1 to 3 rating, then they're like a shit client. Basically, it means like they, you know, don't make payments on time, or they've totally tried to fuck over their team, the teams that they hired. Maybe they don't provide good intel. Or maybe they've lied about who they are, which I feel like in EBA with Vault Peddlers is going to be like a huge issue.
Yeah.
Of people like not wanting to know. Like the Baratosh probably don't want folks to know, like, when they're up to shit.
If they even still exist. Oh man, I love the idea of the Baratosh. Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, so that's the first thing you're gonna know. Unlike most other like adventure hook things like Mysterious Stranger, I kind of wanted to take a different approach for this, because you are working in a gig economy. You are working a contract. So the next thing down is going to include job site. This is where we start diving into mechanics we haven't built yet.
Yeah.
So the team is going to go somewhere to do this, and it might not be where they currently are, which means that they're going to need to factor in travel expenses. When you move your caravan, and this is what we haven't set up yet, that's going to burn through resources to get that whole caravan moved.
Yeah.
So most contracts don't include travel costs. So you have to weigh the cost of the travel versus like how much payment you're actually going to be getting, to help determine whether or not that job is actually feasible, whether or not it makes sense to do it that way. There are some clients that do pay, but most of them just don't. I don't really have any additional notes on the whole job site thing. It's pretty standard. It's going to have like a name, and it'll have coordinates of where this thing would be. For simplicity's sake, the GM can just kind of point to it on like a world map, and just sort of say it's there and you're here, and you know, you work out the travel costs from there.
What I like about this too is it gives us a good like first point of like, hey, this is a great negotiating place for you to start with. Try to work in travel costs. Like it is going to behoove you to do that. I think having these clear areas of like, this is a good place to start negotiating is going to get people into the spirit of doing interesting negotiations.
One of the things I really wanted to do with the contract was I wanted to give players a lot of different factors to weigh on a single decision.
Sure.
All of these things I think are going to really contribute to everybody at the table getting together and saying like, well, the payment is super high, but look at how fucking far away this place is. And this is for like a 4-star client. Like, do we even want to go this far for somebody who like doesn't even have like the pull, you know?
But then again, a 4-star client might be offering a larger haul. Like, it's sketchy, but it's... See,
Right.
what I really like about moving forward on this, like, from the visual side of things, is I would love to present this as a character sheet almost, with, like, boilerplate stuff put in. And this could be for the Archivist. You have your boilerplate contract, and then from there, all the addendums you can put in. Like, giving you space to write all this stuff in, giving you space for the players to edit it, and you to edit it. Like, I really dig that.
Right, I totally agree. Okay, cool. And then so moving on, we have our job description. This is like pretty much the actual plot hook itself.
Yeah.
It's like, this is where you're going, this is what you're doing, this is what we want you to come back with. This is, a basic summary of the payment. Ideally, a job description will also include a basic history of the area you're going into, right? If you're exploring a volcano, the team should understand why. They should understand what there is important. They should understand if there have been previous expeditions to those places. Now, it's important to note, not every contract you get, right? Think of those 3-star clients. Not every contract you get is going to have all that information. So one of the things that I want to encourage with this section especially is like, pay attention to what's written, but also pay attention to what's not written, right? This is an invitation for you to think about what is not listed there. That and our next section, which we'll get to in just a minute.
I like that a lot too, like what you just said there, because it encourages players to think while they're going through dungeon, hey, if I'm supposed to be my end of the contract, they are too. Now, you might have less pull being a team of vagabonds, and I think inherently that is sort of the idea of the game, but you can use that leverage.
Well, and that's the thing is like at the end of the contract, you'll be given, I think it's right that you should be given an opportunity to give your rating to that client. And like, that's another thing you're going to have to negotiate.
Maybe
because like
maybe the client rating system is way more back channel than that. Like we have essentially like a group of Okies, right? It is very much that idea of like vagabonds, like hobos, like using this like culture, like using like their own language to leave like written messages on walls and stuff. Like
right.
That might be something we want to pull in. That could be very fun. Like this interconnectivity between caravans. That is way more hush-hush.
Oh, I really like the idea of... So what if all of your contracts are local to where the caravan is, and in every city or village, there's like a place with like hobo glyphs that basically say, I love that idea. That's sick.
It adds this element of depth to what we're doing, because we have the official contract, and this is what you're conscripted to do by this organization or this Johnson, not at you, Shadowrun, and like this is the official verbiage, and like you can lose money and shit on that, but it gives this underbelly of like, okay, who is in the caravan is very different. Like we have like circus travelers. These are not people of official capacity. They just operate within that context. So seeing that underbelly, I love that. I love that depth.
Yeah, I really like that idea. Okay, cool. So moving on to the next then. These are known area threats. These are cats.
Yes.
Did you just cough?
Oh, the cat did?
The cat did. Just okay, so cats are known area threats, which is basically kind of what I said before. If you're going into a certain area that's well known for, having I don't know, a dangerous village that like doesn't take well to outsiders, or if you're diving into abandoned facility from the old world, maybe it has a super advanced security system. If the investor knows about that, they have an obligation to tell you these things. Now, that being said, you do need to be aware that, again, bad investors, bad clients, A, might not have this information, or B, they might not put it in for whatever reason. So this is another thing to take into account when you're deciding whether or not you want to do the job. And I think that this one is particularly cool because it's really going to encourage players to get an idea of what the world of EVA looks like. The example I use is like doing a job near Vigil. The heat is going to be a problem. You as a player and you as a character are going to know, like, it's hot in Vigil. It's like a huge fucking volcano place. And like, that's, different from like the rest of the world. You're going to be able to start splitting these things into regions, and sort of take into account a lot of these different aspects of the world.
By the way, based off what you just said, I just came up with our first supplementary material name, which is Vault Peddlers Bad Investors, and it's a collection of different groups within EVA that you can pit against, like,
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that so much. Okay, cool. So, going down then is payment. We're still using the term petty coin. We're probably not going to stick with it, but it's just a good placeholder term for now. I swear to God, it's going to end up being in the final version, and I hate it. The thing is, I don't hate it. I just don't. I don't know.
You feel like Elon Musk is going to like see it and
I do.
He's going to try to invest in it.
You can't invest in our game, Elon.
You can't really invest in cryptocurrency. It's currency. It's not like... That's not how... I'm investing in the dollar.
Okay.
So you...
How much you want to invest?
That's a fun way to go to the bank.
Right.
Are you withdrawing? Yes. Okay.
Yes, I am. Okay, so payment is done in petty coin. It's just going to have basically a number amount, and that is what you get. The only thing that I really put in here is each payment will be designated with certain specifications. HNHL is half now, half later. LS is lump sum to be paid at the completion of the job, which actually I should have specified here. And then DS, deposit submitted. This would basically mean that next to your total number, there will be a DS and then a smaller number, and that is the deposit that they're paying you now to complete the job.
This just made me think of a really cool caravan feature you could buy. An escrow service. They're detached from your caravan.
Hell yeah.
They're like not a part of your caravan, but they travel with you and act as an escrow service for you.
I really want to know what the hobo version of escrow service looks like. That's my answer to that.
It's like golden bindle stick.
Oh, the finest napkins. Okay, so that's payment. I don't feel like there's a ton more to explain there. I don't know if you have additional questions.
No, I love all the verbiage you use, though.
Okay, cool. So next one is optional goals and optional payments. So one of the things that I mentioned before is that there will be a main goal, like get this artifact out of this, ruin. But there also might be like, get a soil sample while you're in there. Or if you run into any enemies and you take them down, bring home one of their, carcasses, and, we'll pay you additional for that.
Or don't kill.
What?
Or don't kill anything.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Yeah. Go in sight unseen and make sure that you remain unseen throughout the mission. Yeah. That's a really good one. Now, these are all optional things, right? You don't have to do them, but it does, I think, encourage players to think smart when they go into dungeons, right? If you have something like, don't be seen, they're really going to be on their toes if they want to get that extra, 800 PC or whatever. Let's see here.
Go on.
Sorry, the other thing, and I have this on the note here, is that the additional goals also have the benefit of boosting your reputation. So one of the things that I mentioned later in the document here is that I kind of think that in the same sense that the client has a rating, I think the caravan has a rating too. Yeah. And this refers to like your status as a Vault Peddler team. The completion of additional goals, I think, should directly correlate to you growing your number, moving it to the next level up, which in turns, I think, opens up new doors for potential new investors who are, hearing stories about these amazing, Vault Peddler excavator teams that are like operating out of the Vigil area. Sure. So I feel like the additional goals has that advantage as well. And that's more than just like a monetary motivator to get people interested in doing them. It also helps like progress and grow the caravan itself.
Yeah, it is. And I almost think that the like reputation should be I think it should be like an attribute of the caravan. I am very curious as to how we're going to do it because there's different ways to do reputation. Like infamy, is, like being excessively violent gets you a reputation. I think your reputation score should like probably positively impact that, but like the nature of your reputation is something we're going to have to take into account.
Well, yeah, there's I think a lot of things. The caravan is kind of the big question mark that we really haven't filled in yet. We need to get that up and running probably like next thing. But yeah, I mean, this is kind of the thought process that I'm working with is that there'll be some kind of a moniker that refers to your status, your perceived efficiency as a Vault Peddler team. Sure. And additional goals will have a direct impact on that. Okay, so last piece of the contract here are penalties. Yes. So it's a contract. Once you agree to it and you send that investor back on their merry way with a signed contract, you're on the hook for whatever amount of money you guys settle on. So there's going to be, with every contract, there is a number amount under, I think I have it listed on the sample contract as penalty. That's how much you're putting at stake if you don't complete this job. Sure. And it should feel like there's a chance you may not be able to complete this job. The penalty section should be more than just a bygone conclusion that like, oh, we'll absolutely do this. We'll absolutely get the job done. Which I think is an attitude that you get playing a lot of tabletops. Like, yeah, of course we're going to defeat the bad guy, whatever. Yeah. I don't want to have that. Yeah. I want the penalty especially. I mean, it should be something, obviously archivists don't go insane with that. Like, look at what your current caravan resources are, but it should be something that hurts in the event that they're not able to do this. This is basically the stick to the carrot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's, I think they should, especially like we should definitely put in the idea to go light on this, because when you do go very heavy on it, it is going to feel especially dangerous, which is, I think, like we can work up a progression system there that I think will work.
Yes, I think so.
I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
It lends to the idea of somebody being like, okay, well, I'm taking collateral. Like,
right. The last thing I have on this section is that you could just say, whatever, if I don't do the job, I'm just not going to pay them the penalty. And the last thing I put on here is basically that, like, you can do that, but that's going to destroy your caravan rating. Like, if word starts getting around that, like, oh, these guys take your money, they don't do the job, and they just run off, no one is going to want to hire you.
Sure.
And that's, I think, another reason why we need to have that sort of caravan status rating sort of implied in there. This is basically making it, I think, a much more three-dimensional experience where it's not just like, okay, this is like the adventure and that's it. It's just this encapsulated little thing. When you want to get into playing like a larger campaign thing and you have to worry about these more, intuitive, interactive things, I think that you have to start looking at like overall reputation, both for you and the clients you work for.
I think that,
but yeah,
like, this rating system and like maybe the best way to I'm thinking very visually here is like having this like contract system with like a star system across the top, and then you fill out like what the level is, because that has the added benefit of being able to make cool drops at the beginning of the session, being like, hey, and sliding across like a 7-star contract. Like everyone's like, whoa, okay, this is big.
No, for sure. Okay, cool. So we'll go down now to the dealer, who I really wanted to try and make this whole process of sorry.
I will say real quick, I want you to go through all of this. This is the area where I do take umbrage with.
No, that's fine. I assumed this was the place. Okay, so we made a bunch of different provinces in Vault Peddlers, and one of the things we made was the dealer. Their whole idea in Vault Peddlers, let me get their thing pulled up. The negotiator. They'll bring in the cash but keep their beaks wet. In other words, this is the person who ultimately negotiates the contracts. You have your pharaoh who's basically in charge of everything. They're sort of the general. But in terms of the businessman of the group for any kind of Vault Peddler team, that's the dealer. So given that we made a whole province that was centered around this idea of trying to, do these contracts and be the businessman, I really wanted to give them a special place in the contract system. I felt like that was essential. So basically the way that this works is if one of your players pick this role in the group, they ultimately, not the rest of the group, they have the final say on whether or not you take a contract, whether you leave a contract, or whether you try to renegotiate a contract, which I'm going to talk about here in just a minute. So this is something that's going to depend on that sort of caravan rating, which is what I was talking about before. This is a sort of perceived status, perceived ability to complete a job, and it directly correlates to how likely potential clients are to hire you. So what I have here is I just kind of came up with some random ranges, like 8 to 10 is elite, 4 to 7 is like middle level, 1 to 3 is either new or very, very bad. Just somebody who either has no reputation or a bad reputation. So the whole process basically comes down to the dealer making a choice. Either they go with the contract, right? In which case everybody signs and the game continues. They decline a contract, in which case, hopefully your archivist has another contract ready, or it's going to be a downtime session. Or they want to renegotiate a contract. And the way that I have this done is that the dealer can... I had this in my mind like one of a couple ways. Either you can make a parlay roll, adding your caravan rating against the investor's rating. And if they win, then the investor, budges on like 1 or maybe 2 aspects, depending on the level of success of the contract. Maybe it's a slightly larger payment. Maybe they cover travel costs. Maybe they lessen the costs of the penalty if they're the whatever it's called. What's it called? I think I just have it listed as penalty.
Yeah, it's just penalty.
Okay, sorry. So maybe they'll like lessen that cost. And so that's great. If you win, that's fantastic. However, if they lose, then nothing changes in the contract. The client doesn't budge. And it also means that the rating for the Caravan team goes down by 1, which could potentially affect standing for future jobs. The idea basically there is that you've sort of embarrassed yourself, you've asked for too much, and word about either you being like too greedy or not understanding how contracts work or something to that effect about your reputation is going to get around to future contracts. So what this does is this puts the dealer front and center in the contract system. They're the ones who are going to make this sort of do the mental math in their head and decide whether they want to try and renegotiate the contract or not. And basically the whole team either wins or suffers by their hand.
So, I think there is a lot of good meat here.
Okay.
I like a lot of the things going on. I have an issue with how it is, not how it's presented, but I have an issue with putting a class front and center here. We have 9 different provinces, yeah?
Yeah.
So, and I'm gonna relate this a lot to Cyberpunk 2020, not Cyberpunk Red. Cyberpunk 2020, the previous game. So, first things first, I feel like having a province in which it is specifically encoded into the rules like this, taking front and center, means that people are going to feel that somebody has to take this province in the game. And in the case that we have 3 people playing, maybe somebody doesn't want to play that.
Sure.
I feel like it is going to put onto somebody playing this role that this is how you have to play the province. And what if you want to play a combat-oriented, what are they called? Sorry, dealer? A combat-oriented dealer. Or a more back-channel dealer.
Sure.
I think that because we have a system in which you are able to point by a little bit, I think there's more flexibility in how your builds are. And so to relate this to Cyberpunk 2020, Cyberpunk 2020 is a game, you're familiar with the role of the Netrunner.
Yeah.
So the Netrunner used to have this system that was like this large grid system, and that was how they dealt with the Matrix. Like, you'd move through and deal with these things. What that ended up playing like, though, is that there was a side quest going on alongside the mission that a lot of people felt got prioritized over or separately from what was going on. And it caused people to not utilize it or utilize Netrunners differently by just saying, oh, we're not going to do that, everyone does this. Or we are going to... It's called, what do they call it? It was the Netrunner in the hacker in the bathtub is what they would call it, because it was, you're separate from the game, basically. I have a worry that doing something like this is going to have people do their own homebrew and not follow rules as written. That being said, let me talk positives here. I feel like a lot of what you're saying here, we can hard encode into feat options for the dealer.
Okay.
Because our game is set up in such a way that, like, everyone is going to have different feats, like saying, hey, you have a special feat that lets you do this parlay roll that has these consequences. Maybe it has this cost to utilize it, but it gives everyone the option to have the dealer do this sort of thing. And if you don't have a dealer in the group, nobody's hurt or punished or anything for it.
Okay.
And it also so it gives us an ability to build up this character towards this thing without making a whole separate system.
Okay.
Utilizing our things as written.
Okay. So I don't think that that's a terrible idea. I did actually have this concern, the same worry actually when I was writing this section. Basically, what do you do if you don't have a person playing a dealer? Which, I mean, I think is a totally legit concern. I absolutely agree with that. My issue there is that I want to make these roles feel distinct, right? One of the things that we really focused on when we talked about like the croaker, the rope walker, the pharaoh, the weaver, whatever, is that they all have very specific specialties.
Sure.
The contract process is, if I'm being really blunt about it, one of the only places where I really feel like the dealer even gets the opportunity to stand out. So I don't know. I'm totally into the idea of making some additional rules for like if your team doesn't choose to have a dealer, like this is how it works, which I'm totally fine with. But I feel like if you're not going to have the dealer front and center here, I don't know where you would have them.
Well, so as an argument, I would say unless you have a special role for each province to have their own thing going on, unless there is a separate system for the croaker or a separate system for the pharaoh, like I feel like this is an unfair.
Oh, I was under the impression that's exactly what we were doing. Are we not doing that?
No, I think we are and we aren't. I think
Okay.
rewording this as just having feats specific to class, because everything's going to have its own feat system, right?
Okay.
Having these feats specific towards class geared into it. We already have this system in place. It is just not hard encoded into specifically this rule set, you know?
Okay. So let me ask you this: if we were just to renegotiate this whole process, because I do want to make renegotiation an option for a party. Can we maybe make it so that like if a player wants to renegotiate a contract, we can do that, and then we can have special extra stuff if you're a dealer?
Yeah, well, and so this is what I think. I think this is how, and this is something that I've encountered making rules for this game, where I try to make a system, and I'm like, you know what really covers this is keeping the actual governing system bare, and then filling it with the feat later.
Right.
Which is the whole idea. So, like, I love the idea of having the renegotiation contract, and then having, like, you can, and like maybe expressly stating this would be a players should look over their feats and see if anything applies, because there could be other classes that have social oriented feats that could help with the negotiation. Now, that doesn't say that their feats would help with the negotiation the same way that the dealer's feats might be more specifically optimized towards like negotiative processes. But I don't like the idea. It feels limiting to have the dealer as your face.
Okay. Well, tell you what, I don't totally disagree with what you're saying here. Like I said, this was actually a concern that I had while I was writing the document.
Yeah.
I say let's put a pin in this then. Sure. We'll come back to this because it is something that I want to explore more.
Yeah.
So let's.
Just to state again, I'm not saying get rid of it. I'm just saying if we rework our verbiage, it just
needs to be reworked a little bit. No, I agree. Like it's something that I think is not solid as it is. I'm just not sure right this minute what to do with it, and I don't want to get too bogged down in it before we get finished with what we need to do today.
Highlight it.
Yeah, go ahead. While you're doing that, I'll go ahead and just run through some of the basic like tips that I have for this whole thing.
Yeah.
I only had two because I was having a brain fart at this point in writing the document. But so first things first, for archivists who are writing sample contracts, try and keep it to one page. We've spent like an hour now talking about all of the different things that are on this. There are a lot of things to weigh down, and you like just for the sake of simplicity, when your players look at it, they should be looking at a single page. Obviously, there are going to be some contracts where like your job description might be fucking huge and it might go beyond that, and that's okay. But as a general rule, you want to try and keep it light, because it also gives you room to wiggle around where you might need to.
I think as designers, this is going to fall a lot on us, like talking about making
boilerplate. Yeah, very much. Second thing is make sure you bring out multiple copies for each player. If you're playing on an actual physical table and not on a VTT like what me and Corey do, because we're both nerds, it'll allow people to have that with them while they're actually doing the job. That way, like, they're in the central, surveillance command area, and, everybody leaves the room and like, oh shit, like, it was an optional thing was to like grab one of the security cameras or whatever.
Oh my God. We can have a note in this section of the book that's like, make sure to give everyone a copy of everyone else a copy of their contract and a red and blue pen so they can modify and sign the contract.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want those big bucks.
So those are the two tips that I have. I'm sure we'll come up with more by the time we get to the final one. So now I get to show you what this whole thing actually is supposed to kind of look like. Obviously, Corey's a killer designer. When we come out with like the final version of this, like he's going to come up with something that's going to look way cooler than this. But this is just kind of to give you a general idea of what we're looking at when we look at like an incoming contract. This is a basic idea of what's going to be given to you as players at the table so that you know what we're looking at. So investor information, we have Felipe de Virgil, secondary representative of the Council of Virgil. So what we know from this guy is that some kind of a statesman. We know that he represents one of the three main cities that we came up with when designing EBA. We also note that he's only got like a 5-star rating despite being a statesman, which is not particularly great. That should kind of stand out because this is somebody who, in terms of the greater perspective of the world, is actually supposed to be pretty like a big deal. Yeah. So we have the Cinderwine Caves. We have a set of coordinates there. And again, this would just be like, you would be playing in front of a map. The archivist is like, here's where you are. Here's where the Cinderwine Caves are, so on and so forth. And we have our job description. So the Virgil Council's found evidence of large water deposits within the Cinderwine Caves north of Virgil. This water supply is of great interest to the city of Virgil and its inhabitants. Your assignment is to explore the Cinderwine Caves, map the region completely, and return the completed map to the Virgil Council, upon which you will receive your payment.
That's so dope.
This is your ultimate goal. That's what you want to do. You want to, and actually I meant to, one second here, locate the water deposit. That was supposed to be actually the central thing, and return the completed map to the Virgil Council. So if you don't do anything else, you need to come back to the Virgil Council with a map that totally has the area completed. It has the water deposit marked on it, or you need to provide some kind of sustainable proof that like there is no such deposit. It's also got a little bit of background on the caves themselves. They were mapped out by Barnabas Clampt, who, fun fact, was the name of my very first Dungeons and Dragons character, and a name that's very close to my heart.
It felt specific.
Well, you've met Barnabas Clampt in One Shot City. He was the little hermit druid. Yeah. Australian.
Yo, dude, I gotta interrupt you for just a moment because I just thought of like a great feat system or like a great set of feats we could put towards the spoiler, which is they're your researcher, plans, schemes, whatever. Finding auxiliary contracts, like warring contracts, like finding people who are against the people that you're contracted to work against.
Ooh, that's a great one.
Contracts to like, in the idea of finding this water deposit. Hey, poison this water deposit when you get there. This contract will pay out more. We'll cover the costs of, like...
Oh, that's fucking great. I love that idea. Oh, shit. Okay, yeah, hang on. We need to put that in the spoiler section.
I told you spoilers were cool.
Of course spoilers are cool. Spoilers are like the characters I normally play. Like the researcher dude behind the, like, Oracle. Like, that's my shit.
Anyone who's read Neuromancer, whenever I think of the spoiler, I think of the Finn, and I love the Finn. He's the best. Actually, he's a miserable human being. I love him so much.
Okay. Let's see here. Okay, yeah. So we have the background on the caves themselves, right? It gives you sort of an idea of maybe possible works to look into. That would be another thing like that you would put your spoiler on. It gives you an idea of like roughly how much of it has been mapped so far. It also tells you what to expect when you get there. So I just made like the burrow weevil native to this area. That would be another thing to put your spoiler on. In addition, we have evidence to believe other cities are sending out their own exploratory teams to find the water source. So, you know, you're going to be dealing with the burrow weevil. You know, you're going to be dealing with other groups of vault peddlers who are also kind of racing to find this resource, which is another potential danger.
And also another reason why it's probably good to have a dealer in your team, like on field work. Yeah,
very true. You have your payment, which is 2,000 petty coin, which I felt like is a big number. I don't fucking know.
We don't know.
You'll note that you have half of that you're putting up as collateral. That 1,000 PC for your penalty, it's half of the payment. So you either are going to walk out of here with $2,000 or minus 1,000. So huge risk, huge reward. I also have like optional goals like bring back a water sample, drag mining equipment to the actual water source itself to make it easier to actually effectively mine it. Bring back a weevil carcass, 50, petty coin for each one that you bring back. So like all of these things are kind of additional goals that you can sort of keep in mind.
I love the evil weevil.
Yeah. And then, and then there's just the line where you sign it. So I don't know. I don't have a ton more to say here. This is basically what I've come up with for the contract system. I totally agree. Good. I'm glad. I feel like as a first stab at it, it's definitely something that I'm happy with.
God, like you visually presented it well, better than I visually present my work when I bring it.
It's not a madman scribble, no. I do apologize for that. I know you really had your heart set on that.
Where are your piles of loose paper? No,
yeah,
I think you hit like all the notes that we needed to hit. You brought in verbiage that I fucking love. Known area threats, like I'm in love with.
Yeah.
I'm also going to draw a burrow weevil.
Do it.
No, man, like this is perfect. I love the idea of a rating system.
Cool.
Man, you hit like so many high notes here. I feel like we have like the beginnings of like an honest to God system here. We got a contract system.
We got something. I definitely think that we do need to spend a little bit more time figuring out how the contracts are actually going to be deliberated on and like how they're going to be agreed upon or renegotiated, however we're planning on doing that. That's, I think, the one loose end we need to tie up. But I actually think that may be something that needs to wait until we start developing feats, which is going to come after we finish the caravan system anyways.
Yeah.
But the thing that I like about this system, at least what I have so far, is that it gives players a lot of different variables to weigh to determine whether or not they think the contract is worth it. encourages them to think about the world proper, like what this world actually is, instead of just the little area of it that they're interacting with. And I think it's going to really fit the model we have in mind of encouraging table talk and like getting players to like sort of deliberate not just as characters but also as players and feel that sort of camaraderie that we're looking for.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
I don't know. You crushed it.
Right.
I want to
So
talk about.
are we out of Math Town now?
No, you lunatic.
Sick.
Never. Actually, me and Taylor had a very interesting conversation the other day about feats when he was like, he asked me, how many feats do you think we're going to have to make, like, ballpark, for... what you asked specifically...
I was young and naive.
I was like, oh my sweet child.
I was young and dumb. I didn't know better.
I was like, everything has a feat system.
Jesus, yeah.
The gravity of, like, we have picked the hardest balance.
Well, I looked actually after having that conversation, I looked at the Pathfinder book and I was like, oh my fucking God. Oh no.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be bad.
It's about 700 pages long.
It is.
And that's just...
It is.
That's just second edition. Let's look at how many feats first edition gathered over 10 years.
Jesus Christ.
So I've also been at work. This is a visual thing, Taylor. You might want to open up the Steam window just to take a peek.
A Steam window? What?
Oh, like our video stream.
Oh, I'm looking at it now.
Okay. So I wanted to also talk about the things I've been up to.
Oh, hell yeah. I'm very excited for everybody to see this.
And I thought maybe we could talk a little lore about stuff as we like look at it. Because I've been doing, like, first off, this is probably a good time for us to drop, hey, Terramundi Games.
Woo!
It's going to be real, despite Taylor's protests.
He's determined to get an LLC.
So I've been working on like some logos.
Yeah, these things are tight. I love this globe.
Yeah, I think this is the direction we want to go in. I'm thinking about turning the actual meteor black too.
Make it a little more readable. Yeah, I get you.
It was actually
make it black, or maybe like a very bold, like green or blue or red or something like that.
So here's the thing: we kind of have to keep logo black and white, because if we're overlaying it on stamps on things, it would be in the corner of a book or something. It has.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, you're right.
Which is like why I'm trying to also, like, you can see like the dark V white space, like it's not overly like it is kind of detailed. I went a little overboard on this one, but I'm just trying to do balance of black and white, big spaces.
Yeah, very cool.
And there was what else was I? Oh yeah, this was another concept I had for TGS logo. I like it. Feels like old school.
It does. It speaks very much of like 80s D&D. I love the sword design. I think I said on the chat that like it looks very Uruk-hai, which I'm all about. I love the way that the style that you went with on this.
I definitely agree. It definitely has that like TSR old school D&D vibe to it.
Yeah.
So I've also been working on concept art. I don't know if we're going to end up using my art or if we're going to pay an artist to redraw my art, but whatever, like at least this will give everyone a good idea of where we're headed if we do pay an artist, whatever. Likely we'll have to conscript somebody even if we end up using some of my stuff, because I'm no way going to fill out a book. So this is a robot I drew.
I do love the automaton, like the blue green like flame that you have like coming out of it, like it's short circuiting. Like It's a very cool little indicator of like this is sort of like the remains of like an old world. Like this technology like still isn't perfect. It's still not like exactly, working the way it's supposed to be, but like it's God, man, it's like those little details that like you nailed with this. Like I love the automaton.
Yeah, I saw it as like, I don't know, maybe like somewhere like in a Virgil mine or something. Like
Yeah.
this is the kind of thing that would be moving around, like sort of getting at that steampunk magic fantasy aesthetic, science magic, whatever.
I can't describe it, but we all know what it is.
I also drew the Saro, which you can
Yeah.
watch in your old streams because they don't exist anymore. But this was a race concept we had, a playable race concept we had, and I think
Species concept.
right. We
don't call.
That's true. You are correct.
Yeah.
That we are still going to use like in a monster manual sort of deal.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah. We kind of talked a little bit about lore for these guys being like tribal based on like metals, magically oriented little river goblins. Here I'm trying to like do that fucking. What we talked about is everything has an element of like Star Shatter, Creatronics, and Biologica to it. So I was trying to show that in the things that I'm drawing. That this is like, obviously this thing's casting magic. It's covered in leaves. It lives outside. Like, but it is also silver skinned. Like it is. It has elements of everything, and that's one thing I want to like prioritize with the concept art moving forward. Is that everything has a little bit of everything to it.
It's a very cool kind of compendium of like the three core competencies. Like you see like Star Shatter and Biologica here in like full swing. Like I'm very, very into this whole idea of like, I don't know, nature and I don't know, technology making these weird kind of hybrid creatures.
Yeah.
And I by the way, I looked up in the what we have like the notes for the Sorrow. It literally just says metal goblins, which
I literally saw that during stream today.
just metal goblins. That's
tight.
So I just want to say, like, to brag on Corey again, he had metal goblins and he came up with this. It's really good. It's really good.
I like these guys. And this is another thing, like, I want to do is, like, I want things to seem alien and distinct here and set us apart from tradition. I don't want to do Tolkien fantasy. I want to lean away from, like, D&D and Pathfinder as prescriptive lore and like head into our own direction, because I feel like games that really accomplish things very well, like the Wild Sea does this, or like it is very unique, and I want to capture that.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, really, is this does not feel like something that you find in like D&D or anything like that. Like that is something that I think is very unique. And I think that it's stuff like this, honestly, that's going to help us continue to sort of differentiate Vault Peddlers from other systems.
Yeah.
Like it's and like we've done it even like this session where like I know I called like one of our provinces a class, and like Corey just was talking about like the races that we have in like our game, even though like it's specie. Like it's so hard to do that stuff when it's just text on paper. But I think that having these sort of visual representations of like, no, this is what it is. It's not just D&D by another name. It is actually a different thing. It's like, it's a very cool thing to see sort of starting to flesh out.
So another very exciting thing is I drew our first playable species, first
Yeah.
concept. This isn't colored right now. I have the flats laid down on right now on Krita, but this is... Oh. Where are you, you little bastard? Hey.
Got away from you.
Yeah, I guess so. Oh, it's because I'm zoomed in. So this is the first stab at a tunneler.
Hell yeah! I also really love this design. Like, the fact that it's this cool little... Like, this is... Okay, so, like, if the previous picture was a combination of, like, Star Shatter and Biologica, this is, like, Star Shatter and Creatronics, like, put together. Man, it's such a cool little idea. Not gonna lie, I want to get, like, a tattoo of this. It's baller.
Yeah, I love this little dude. I showed it to a friend of mine, and he asked some questions that I didn't really have the answer to, but I threw some answers at him anyways. Or he's like, do they all look exactly... Because I mentioned that, like, they're hive-minded, except for the ones that you play, because the ones that you play are divergent. Whether they're divergent because the hive decided that they needed to send somebody out, or they divergent because they were born that way, totally different. I mean, it depends on the tunneler. But,
Right.
But I liked he asked if they all looked like that, and I said, I think they all kind of have this same, like, central ball, and then there's a lot of modifications that go on them besides that. So, like, they're very...
Oh, that's very cool.
Yeah. Like, there's a lot of utility.
Like, so basically, like, this one has, like, a regular arm and, like, the buzzsaw, but, like, it's kind of like a Mr. Potato Head. Like, you can have, like, other add-ons. I love that idea. Like, it gives a lot of very cool opportunities for, like, improvements and feats down the line if you go with a tunneler and you, like, sort of, like, start improving them as you go. Oh, I fucking love that idea. That's so neat.
So my inspiration for this was, I mean, BioShock, obviously.
Sure.
But they don't own dive suits.
I was gonna say, look, BioShock just had a big scary person in a dive suit. Like, it's not... It wasn't that original.
Is a man not entitled to the dive suit of his own brow?
Fuck you, Ayn Rand.
But also, I don't know if you've played Final Fantasy VIII, but the Tonberry King was a big inspiration.
Hell yeah! No, I know what that fucking thing is. I've been trying to put my finger on that the whole goddamn time since I've seen that. Fuck, that's what it is.
Yeah,
okay.
It, like, very specifically, the Tonberry King's got that staff with the candle on it, and, like,
yeah,
that's what the light was supposed to be.
I love that. That's tight as hell. Yeah, so is the light is attached to him? Yeah. Like, it goes where he goes? I love that.
So, and this is, like, where I'm running into issues with doing color flats. So, like, color flatting is, like, how comic book artists do coloring, and it's where you lay down your base colors. Like, you just lay down high contrast colors next to each other. Those aren't necessarily the colors you use, but it separates everything, and then you can overlay color and work. But like, comic books work on high contrast because they're smaller pictures. So,
yeah.
Like, this is where, like, obviously we're trying to stay away from, like, doing just brass, because first off, the automaton was just brass, and
right.
Second off, it will look just like a Big Daddy.
Right.
So I have been playing around with, like, doing, like these parts in, like, gold, these highlighted areas. And, and then doing like a very light blue. I'm trying to do cobalt. Like, I don't know if you've seen raw cobalt before, but it looks fucking wild.
I haven't, but I can look it up in like 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Oh, tight. Okay, I see what you're saying.
Naturally occurring metal that looks fucking insane. And
all right.
So trying to like go that vibe with it on the main body, and then like some browns, the cobalt, and the gold highlights. Turns out gold's a bitch. Like metallics are a bitch, but whatever.
Yeah.
And then I'm trying to like right now I'm stuck at like, do I have these spots right here? Like, is that empty, or is light emanating from that?
I really like the idea that there's light emanating from it.
Me too, but then I'm like, why do I why do I have the light bulb on top?
That is, well, one of them, Corey, one of them allows you to see, and the other is that through which all things are seen.
Ooh. I like that little religious aspect
A little,
you're giving the
a little C.S. Lewis for you.
Yeah, but I love this little bastard.
No, I straight up love that line drawing. I think for me it's just because I've been super into tattoo art lately. I've been like following a bunch of people on like Twitter and just like I don't know, like this speaks to me so much of like a really nice bold like line drawing for a tattoo, and like it's very cool. I just love the design.
I plus want to see those little feet shuffling around.
Yeah. Imagining that thing moving is like the funniest and cutest thing ever. And I think actually now I want to play a tunneler. I didn't really before, but I think now I want to play a tunneler.
Well, and this is something we should probably start doing is like maybe taking breaks to design character. Like once we have our character creation down pat, like start designing characters in them to like feel it out, and like also make a spoiler who's a tunneler, because I love that little that idea.
Spoiler is a tunneler. No, I want to make a mother that's a tunneler. Like that's I just like.
Yeah, I am trying to think who I definitely want to take a crack at the builders.
Yeah,
the Arroche are gonna be tough. Drawing people sucks. I don't know how people look. I draw little fucking monsters.
I was about to say, yeah, no thank you. Yeah, so at the Arroche is like the metal roach people. Oh yeah, builders are gonna be wild. I'm gonna leave you to that one. Cause honestly, when we made the builders, I fucking was just talking out of my ass. I don't even know what those fucking things look like.
I actually have a pretty clear idea of them.
You should do that one then.
Yeah.
Like, cause I don't fucking know what those look like. I'm really interested in seeing what we do with the Ember fights and the Polyutar though.
Yeah.
Like, cause I'm wanting to try and figure out a way to make Ember fights into not just Ents.
Groot.
Yeah. Groot, Treebeard. I mean, just the whole like tree plant person has been done before, and it's the same challenge. Like we need to find a way to make that like our own,
while fitting the aesthetic that like we're established. Because like even if we don't utilize my art, I like the idea of like this is the kind of aesthetic I want to go with.
Yeah.
Like.
So my thought, and I don't know how you feel about this. You can probably visualize this better than I can. Very much inspired by my own struggle with my backyard, but in the wake of a super, heavy cataclysm, the things that grows are weeds and like, plants that are really, they're just fast growing naturally things. What if our Ember fight was made of like bamboo? Like just a fuckload of like intertwining bamboo that like creates a face. I don't know.
I was thinking like kudzu.
Oh yeah, we were kind of on the same plane there actually. Yeah.
Although that's gonna be a nightmare to draw.
Yeah, good luck, because I'm not doing that. Somebody else can do that shit.
Love you, little buddy. I'm gonna go upstairs, maybe watch a little Antiques Roadshow, go to bed.
All right, love you.
Love you too, bud. Don't stay up too late.
I won't. I'm going to bed early.
Boy.
Yeah, me too.
Dude,
I've been... Eat dinner, bud.
I didn't eat dinner last night either. Who needs to eat? I've got work to do.
Make a salad or something.
Yeah.
All right, love you, bud.
Love it too.
My boy's so dedicated.
Love it. Dude, rude. Here. Bye. We're gonna get off stream. Because I need to not talk about my personal health in front of people.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, thank you all so much for stopping by. We'll be back again next week. Actually, wait, Corey, before we go, what should we do? What should we plan for next week?
I talked to Adam, my buddy Adam, who's very interested in doing this with us, about the 14th and possibly the next following week. I have since played a game of The Quiet Year. This is going to be fun. We're going to have to, you and me, talk this week, or maybe this weekend if you have time, about like cracking down and making it specifically geared towards building our world. Sorry, Griffin, stealing it. But yeah, Adam's down. I'm gonna talk to him. I'll send him a message tomorrow just to like recertify that he's down and good to go, and then I will probably bite on Roll20 so we can just do it that way.
Awesome, tight.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, you heard it here first, folks. Next week and probably the week after is The Quiet Year. So we will see you then. Until then, take care. Love y'all very much. And yeah, have a good one.
Deuces.